The electric bike industry just had its worst year on record. Brands that promised to revolutionize transportation are now drowning in federal investigations, product recalls, and billion-dollar lawsuits they cannot outrun. 8 major names have quietly pulled products, slashed warranties, and hired legal teams instead of fixing defective bikes that are catching fire inside people's homes. Regulators are involved. Customers are furious. And the companies still fighting these recalls are betting that lawyers cost less than doing the right thing. That bet is falling apart fast. These are the 8 e-bike brands facing the biggest backlash of 2026, and what it means for every bike sitting in your garage right now. Number 8. Rad Powerbikes, the recall they refuse to issue. Rad Powerbikes used to be the golden child of direct-to-consumer e-bikes. They had over 1 million happy customers, celebrity endorsements, and enough venture capital funding to make Tesla jealous. Then, their batteries started exploding. The Consumer Product Safety Commission issued a rare public warning in November 2025, telling customers to immediately stop using certain Rad Power bike batteries because they pose a serious risk of injury and death from fires. We're talking about batteries with model numbers RP1304, RADS1304Y, and HLRPS1304. Here's where it gets ugly. The batteries don't just catch fire while charging. According to federal investigators, 31 fires have been reported, including 12 incidents that caused property damage worth over $734,000. Some of these fires happened when the battery wasn't even being used. The bike was just sitting in storage, and boom, house fire. But here's the kicker that has customers absolutely furious. Rad Powerbikes is refusing to issue a voluntary recall. The CPSC literally had to issue a public warning because the company won't cooperate. Why? Money. According to government documents, Rad Power told federal regulators that offering full refunds or replacements would be financially ruinous. Think about that for a second. A company is admitting that fixing their dangerous products would bankrupt them. So they're just going to leave those fire hazards in people's homes instead. The affected batteries were sold with popular models like the Radwagon 4, Rad City HS4, and Rad Rover High Step 5. Plus, they were sold separately as replacement batteries for about $550 each. The Consumer Product Safety Commission doesn't mince words in their warning. They say the batteries can unexpectedly ignite and explode, especially when the battery or wiring harness has been exposed to water and debris. Translation: if you ride your e-bike in normal conditions where it might get wet or dirty, it could literally explode. Rad Power's response has been to double down and claim their batteries are safe, despite federal investigators saying the opposite. They've put out statements saying they firmly stand behind our batteries and strongly disagree with the CPSC's characterization. But when federal safety experts are telling people their product could kill them, maybe it's time to listen. The backlash from customers has been swift and brutal. Online forums are filled with Rad Power owners posting photos of their destroyed garages and demanding answers. Class action lawsuits are already being filed, and some customers are organizing to pressure retailers like Best Buy to stop selling Rad Power products entirely. Number 7. Trek, when premium brands cut corners. Trek has built their reputation on being the premium American bike company. They sponsor Tour de France teams. They've been around since 1976, and their bikes cost more than some people's cars. So when Trek started having massive recall issues, it shattered the trust customers had in paying top dollar for supposedly superior quality. The first recall hit in December 2025. Trek had to recall thousands of their newest electric bikes, including the Domain Plus ALR 5 and 6 models, plus the Checkpoint Plus SL 6 and 7. The problem? The bolts holding the chainring could come loose, causing the entire chainring to separate from the bike while you're riding. That's a guaranteed crash at speed. Trek received 3 reports of chainrings coming loose, which might not sound like much until you realize these bikes cost between $5,000 and $8,000. Customers were paying premium prices for what turned out to be a basic assembly problem that could have been caught with proper quality control. But Trek wasn't done disappointing their customers. Just a month later, in January 2026, another recall hit. This time it was the rear wheel bolts on their FX Plus 1 models and Electra Townie Go bikes. 7 reports came in of rear wheel bolts breaking completely, causing the wheel to separate from the bicycle frame. What made this recall particularly infuriating for Trek customers was the solution. Instead of fixing the underlying engineering problem, Trek just swapped the black bolts for silver ones and called it a day. They threw in a $10 store credit like that somehow makes up for selling people bikes with defective safety-critical components. The internet reaction was savage. Trek owners started posting side-by-side photos of their bikes next to much cheaper competitors, asking why a $40,000 Trek couldn't get basic bolt engineering right when a $900 Lectric XP had no such issues. Industry experts pointed out that these weren't isolated manufacturing defects. Having 2 separate recalls on the same model year bikes suggests systematic quality control problems in Trek's supply chain. For a company that charges premium prices partly based on their reputation for precision engineering, that's a devastating blow to their brand image. Trek's customer service response made things worse. Instead of proactively reaching out to affected customers, they made people check serial numbers on their website to see if their bike was part of the recall. Customers were basically told to troubleshoot their own safety issues. The financial impact on Trek dealers has been significant. Many shops reported customers canceling orders for other Trek models, worried that the quality control issues might extend beyond just electric bikes. Some dealers quietly started steering customers toward competitors rather than deal with the constant recall notifications and angry customer calls. Number 6. Pacific Cycle, the Walmart connection nobody talks about. Pacific Cycle might not be a household name, but their bikes definitely are. They own Schwinn, Mongoose, and several other brands that you'll find at major retailers. They're the company behind those affordable e-bikes you see at Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's. The problem is, affordable turned out to mean dangerous. In January 2024, Pacific Cycle had to recall 1,700 e-bikes sold at Bass Pro and Cabela's after multiple reports of lithium-ion batteries overheating and catching fire while charging. The Ascend Cabrillo and Minaret models were literally burning down people's garages. 3 separate fire incidents were reported to federal regulators, with one person suffering second-degree burns. But here's what made customers absolutely livid. These weren't cheap bikes. People paid between $1,400 and $1,500 for what they thought were quality electric bikes from a reputable outdoor retailer. The recall notice revealed just how dangerous these bikes were. The batteries could overheat during normal charging, creating fire hazards that could result in severe injuries, death, and property damage. Pacific Cycle's solution? Just return the entire bike to Bass Pro or Cabela's for a full refund. No fix, no replacement parts, just, "We messed up, here's your money back." But the Pacific Cycle problems didn't stop there. They also had to recall their Schwinn Ovation bicycle child carriers after reports of safety buckles randomly releasing during use, creating fall hazards for children. Then came another recall for their Pacific Igniter and Bubble Pop bikes sold exclusively at Target, this time for loose handlebars. What emerged from these multiple recalls was a pattern of cost-cutting that put customer safety at risk. Industry insiders revealed that Pacific Cycle had been aggressively sourcing components from the lowest bidder, often sacrificing quality control to hit retail price points demanded by big box stores. The backlash hit Pacific Cycle where it hurt most: their retail partnerships. Bass Pro Shops quietly stopped featuring e-bikes prominently in their stores. and several smaller retailers dropped Pacific Cycle products entirely. Customer reviews on retailer websites became so negative that some stores stopped allowing reviews on Pacific Cycle products altogether. The most damaging revelation came from former Pacific Cycle engineers who spoke anonymously to industry publications. They claimed that internal testing had identified potential safety issues with battery systems months before the recalls. But management decided the cost of redesigning components wasn't worth it for budget market products. Number 5. Fengqs, the Amazon Marketplace nightmare. Fengqs represents everything wrong with the Wild West of e-bike sales on Amazon. This Chinese manufacturer flooded the marketplace with cheap electric bikes that looked impressive in photos but turned out to be fire hazards on wheels. Their story perfectly illustrates how Amazon's lax oversight allows dangerous products to reach American consumers. The Fengqs F7 Pro e-bike was sold on Amazon for between $700 and $1,200 from May through December 2024. That's a huge price range for supposedly the same bike, which should have been the first red flag. The customers were drawn in by flashy marketing photos and what seemed like premium features for the price. Then the fires started. 13 reports of e-bikes randomly igniting, with 2 incidents resulting in fires that caused $4,000 in property damage. The Consumer Product Safety Commission determined that the batteries could overheat and ignite without warning, posing serious fire and burn hazards. Here's what made the Fengqs situation particularly infuriating for customers. The recall process was a complete nightmare. Instead of simply returning the bike for a refund, customers had to write their name, the word recalled, and the current date next to the battery with a permanent marker, then photograph it and email the photo to prove they were disposing of the battery properly. But good luck actually reaching Fengqs for that refund. The company's customer service was virtually non-existent. Customers reported waiting weeks for email responses, being transferred to phone numbers that didn't work, and having their return requests simply ignored. Many people just gave up and ate the loss rather than deal with the bureaucratic nightmare. The Fengqs debacle highlighted a massive loophole in consumer protection. Because they were sold through Amazon, many customers assumed they had the same return protections as other Amazon purchases. But since these were marketplace sellers, not items sold by Amazon directly, customers found themselves stuck with dangerous products and no recourse. Amazon's response was typically hands-off. They removed the listings after the recall was announced, but they didn't proactively contact customers who had purchased the bikes. No warnings, no automatic refunds, just radio silence. Customers had to find out about the fire hazard from news reports or government websites. Number 4. Super 73, the influencer brand that couldn't deliver. Super 73 marketed itself as the cool, California lifestyle e-bike brand. Their Instagram was full of influencers riding retro-inspired bikes on Malibu beaches. But the reality behind the marketing was a company struggling with basic quality control. In early 2025, Super 73 had to issue a recall for brake failure on their popular models. The disc brake calipers had a retaining pin that could loosen and completely detach, leading to total brake failure. When your brakes fail on a bike that can hit 28 miles per hour, that's not a minor inconvenience, it's a potential death sentence. This was particularly damaging because their target market wasn't hardcore cyclists. These were casual riders who trusted that a bike costing several $1,000s would have reliable brakes. The recall exposed how Super 73 had prioritized aesthetics over engineering. Customers were paying premium prices for premium looks, while the underlying components were often sourced from the same suppliers as much cheaper bikes. Customer service during the recall was a disaster. Phone lines were constantly busy, their website crashed, and Many customers were told to just stop riding and wait months for parts. The influencer marketing strategy that built the brand backfired spectacularly. Instagram personalities suddenly went quiet or deleted sponsored posts, facing backlash for promoting dangerous products. Ultimately, Super 73 tried to scale too quickly, attempting to compete with major brands without investing in the quality control needed to keep their riders safe. Number 3. Lectric, the volume leader's growing pains. Lectric e-bikes has been the success story of the direct-to-consumer e-bike world. They've sold over 500,000 bikes since 2019, making them America's best-selling e-bike brand. But success at that scale brings its own problems, and their massive recall revealed the cracks in Lectric's rapid growth strategy. The major controversy hit in September 2023 when the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission announced a recall of approximately 45,000 Lectric XP 3.0 and XP Step-Through 3.0 models. The issue was terrifying. The mechanical disc brake calipers could fail entirely, reducing or eliminating the rider's ability to stop. What made this particularly frustrating for customers was that brakes are the single most safety-critical system on any bicycle. When you are riding a heavy e-bike in traffic at 20 miles per hour, brake failure is not just an inconvenience, it's a massive hazard. Lectric reported multiple incidents of brake failure, resulting in injuries including cuts, scrapes, and a broken bone. Lectric's solution was to offer a free repair kit that consumers could install themselves, along with up to $100 toward having the repair done by a professional bike shop. While this is a standard recall remedy, it left many customers scrambling to find mechanics willing to work on direct-to-consumer e-bikes, a common pain point in the industry. The recall forced Lectric to eventually upgrade their subsequent models, but for the 45,000 owners of the affected XP3 models, it was a harsh reminder that scaling up production to meet massive demand can sometimes lead to dangerous compromises in component quality. Number 2. Bird, the bankruptcy that left customers stranded. Bird's entry into the e-bike market was supposed to be their pivot away from the troubled scooter rental business. Instead, it became a cautionary tale about what happens when customers pay the price for corporate mismanagement. The problem started when Bird's e-bikes hit the market in 2021. Industry observers noted that Bird had essentially licensed a design rather than developing their own, a massive red flag about their long-term commitment. By late 2023, Bird's stock was delisted, and bankruptcy rumors swirled. Bird assured worried e-bike buyers that their bike division was separate from the scooter operations. Those assurances turned out to be worthless. When Bird officially declared Chapter 11 bankruptcy in December 2023, customers were stranded. Warranty claims were denied, replacement parts vanished, and customer service disappeared overnight. People had paid between $1,299 and $1,600 for bikes that were now orphaned products. Unlike cars, where independent mechanics can find parts, e-bikes from defunct companies become very expensive paperweights. Adding insult to injury, customers discovered the bikes were manufactured by a third party. However, the licensing deals were structured so buyers had absolutely no recourse when Bird went under. The Bird bankruptcy highlighted the massive risk of the direct-to-consumer e-bike market. Buy from a venture capital-funded startup that goes bust, and you're completely out of luck. Today, customer forums are just support groups. Number 1. VanMoof, the premium promise that became a nightmare. VanMoof was supposed to be the Tesla of e-bikes. Customers paid $3,000 to $5,000 for sleek bikes that promised to revolutionize urban transportation. Instead, they got a masterclass in how not to run a tech company. VanMoof's fatal flaw was insisting on proprietary components for everything. When something broke, it required special parts that took months to get. Their integrated electronics were also incredibly fragile. Normal rain could brick the electrical system, and buggy software often made the bikes unrideable. Because VanMoof assumed their high-tech bikes wouldn't need maintenance, customer service became a nightmare, leaving riders waiting 6 months or more for basic repairs. The final blow came when VanMoof declared bankruptcy in July 2023. They burned through massive venture capital, leaving thousands of customers stranded with expensive bikes that were impossible to service. Even the attempted resurrection under new ownership has struggled, essentially admitting the original proprietary approach was fundamentally flawed. The e-bike industry's year of reckoning in 2026 has taught us a hard lesson. Companies cutting corners on safety and reliability will get caught. For customers, the message is clear. Do your research and remember the cheapest or flashiest option often comes with hidden costs.